Is there anything we did not cover we want to cover in more detail?
One thing that I would point out when Amanda was talking about the weighted funding formula, one of the things that's in the bill that I think is good, as funding changes going upward, or if unfortunately if the economy has a downturn and it goes down, it will still maintain that differential between base funding and weighted funding. So they won't either take weighted funding away to raise the base or cut the base further to raise. So I think that keeping that balance of the differential, because we know that it does take different resources to educate certain populations. So I think that's an important piece that's in there.
Huh, okay. Yeah, we didn't really talk too much in detail about base and weighted. Maybe we can just do an overview of that. Amanda, what is the difference between the base and a weighted formula?
Yeah, so base funding is basically the funding any general education student would get, or any student. So it's just kind of the operational expenses, paying for the teacher and the principal and the staff and all those kind of basic things in the school. Under SB 543, weighted funding will be used for things that they're calling Zoom services or Victory services. So if you're familiar with Zoom schools and Victory schools, these are schools that were serving high English learner populations or high at-risk populations. So now those kind of services that we've seen be successful in those schools, now they're, in theory, if there's the money provided for those weights, they'd be provided to all students that qualify under those categories. And we currently do have weighted funding for students with disabilities, so that will continue, and we'll now have weighted funding for students who are gifted and talented. So it's putting in law these programs, and they're going to be part of the formula, whereas before it was kind of every 2 years, we hope that particular program will get funded, but it wasn't really part of the formula. So it's a good step, but without additional dollars to actually put into those weights, it's going to be very difficult to provide those services.
And Emil, I wonder, do we have ratios on what those are for each one of those populations then? Are those detailed in the bill?
Oh, for Zoom and Victory services and whatnot, or?
Correct. Yep.
I'm not sure that they're detailed in the bill exactly. There's a lot of details that have yet to be worked out.
I know they've roughly calculated what they want those weights to be, but whether they're in the bill.
That'll be, again, up for a decision later on.
And that's the big part of what the Commission on School Funding, I think is what they're calling it, is going to be doing, is setting those weights, actually setting the base per pupil amount, all the adjustments that you started having with the necessarily small schools, the small districts. So that's how you get the differential between the districts within the state. And then this Commission on School Funding will also look to see how much money they have available to distribute via the weights, and then determine what the weighted amounts will be. So I think, again, going back to the presentation that we saw the other day, when you explain this funding bill, it really helps to have those numbers there to understand the implications of what's happening, but it's important to note that the bill doesn't actually specify any of those, that they're for illustrative purposes only.